It's the Bert Cohen Show. Well, the dream is different from all different perspectives. It depends how you experience it. Bert Cohen here. We're going to be talking today about the original inhabitants of this land, the people who have gotten unbelievably shafted through the years, just a remarkably successful genocide, believe it or not. But it's not over yet, not by a long shot. There's a lot of hope for the Native Americans, the First Nation people, that not only for them, but possibly for the rest of the world as well. There may be examples that we can follow. Our guest today on the Bert Cohen Show is Elsa Johnson, is it, I believe?
Yes.
Elsa Johnson, yes, director of the INA Solutions, that's IINA, which is a humanitarian and environmental justice organization she established to help improve the quality and life for rural Navajo elders who lack basic human needs and to bring commerce to Navajo land via clean energy. Well, thanks again for being with us, Elsa Johnson. And most of us thought that the federal government stopped taking land from Indians and giving it to powerful private hands 100 years ago anyway. But that's not necessarily the case now, is it? What has been going on? Tell us a little bit about the history of something called Big Mountain and why understanding what's been going on there may be important to the future of all of us.
Well, I think America doesn't realize that but approximately 60% of all America's natural resources sit on the Indian lands, and we've, there's such a dependence on coal and uranium, those types of power, and we're seeing that firsthand on Navajo Nation. And my ancestral land is just a few miles from the world's largest strip mining operation by Peabody Coal, and so we live the effects of all of these mining, and we are also feeling them health in our daily lives, and also as far as the environment. We're seeing such drastic impacts on the environment, our water sources. And so that's what I think all of America in the tribes are experiencing. And I just want to share this quote from a tribal chairman of the Moapa Band of Paiutes over in Nevada. I think this is so appropriate. He says, air quality and public health hazards should not depend on political winds driven by those who never have to inhale the pollution they authorize.
Wow.
And basically, we're feeling the brunt of all of the, what America is really enjoying. We're the ones that are, first in line to feel the health impacts, the environmental impacts. And so that's what's happening in America right now.
Well, most people, they want to turn on their stereo or their flat screen TV. They flick a switch, end of story. Don't think about it. But tell us about what, I guess there's been a great deal of coal. You said something like 60% of all mined resources come from Native American lands? Did I
Yes,
hear you right?
yes.
Wow. Well, what has gone on with that specifically with regard to coal and with regard to uranium?
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, now let me just talk about Navajo Nation because that's where I'm from. Our reservation is 27,000 square miles in northeastern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, at the southern tip of Utah, and it's the size of West Virginia and is larger than 10 of the 50 American states, and with an altitude ranging from 5,000 to 10,000 feet. And according to the recent census, we're over just shy of 300,000. Well, actually, we are just tipping over. I think it's like 300,020 people. I think that's where we're at right now. And half of our population lives on the reservation, and then the rest of us, like myself, I live and work in Phoenix. I mean, out of Phoenix, rather. And many live, they go to college, and then they remain in the cities, like in Phoenix, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Dallas, Texas, Salt Lake City, Utah, L.A., those larger cities, because, we just don't have the jobs available on the reservation. And then we have our reservation is surrounded by pretty significant border towns, and we actually make those border towns thrive because we have no merchandise, we can't buy cars on the reservation. There's no, we can't buy, refrigerators or televisions on the reservation. There's no stores there, so we go off reservation, buy all of our, needs for groceries and so on and so forth. So we really contribute to society in that way. And then the mine up where my family lives on Black Mesa, I know that we pay a huge amount of tax to the state of Arizona, and so we contribute in those ways which the rest of the world doesn't see. But we have a three-branch government. We have a executive, we have a president, legislative, and which comprises of 24 council, and then judicial. We have an attorney general, and the Navajo government was formed in 1923 in order to sign mineral leases, because at the time the U.S. government realized that Navajo was rich with all of this natural resources. So they needed somebody or some folks to sign these lease agreements, and so since that time we had a chairman, but up till about 1989, then we switched to a three-branch government. We were back in the 1860s. We were rounded up. There was probably the government didn't. I mean, the people didn't really know the Navajo folks, because in those times, in that era, they were very nomadic, and then we were in various bands. We didn't have one central leader. There was numerous bands, just moving around. And, one band might be friendly to the settlers and to the Mexicans, so on. But, another band coming along, everybody just kind of, made this, thinking that all Navajos were alike. And so they started, all of these raids and taking Navajos for slaves and vice versa, back and forth. So finally the government got fed up and decided to round all the Navajos up, and they took about 5,000 to 8,000 Navajos and marched them to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, along the Rio Grande, which is quite a ways from where our homeland is. And there we were suppressed to horrific conditions at the fort, and thousands of or hundreds of people died of hunger and sickness, heartache, and abuse by the soldiers as well. And the American food did not agree with our people, because we were very we maintained very healthy diets up till that point, and we've never had to use white flour, sugar, salt, and all that, up until then, coffee. And what was issued at the fort to these folks was cooked the wrong way, so a lot of them died, And then otherwise, they try to hunt for rabbits, mice, and prairie dogs just to survive. And about 2 to 3,000 died, during the incarceration. And and then this is not to forget when they were rounded up, marching over, about 1,000, 2,000 or so died as well. These were the ones that the old and the weak, as well as the children who couldn't keep up on the march, were to the fort, were shot dead by Kit Carson and his soldiers. So, this is just very egregious what we had to contend with. And then finally, in 1868, the Civil War general Sherman came out to Fort Sumner and saw the horrific conditions that the Navajo prisoners were being subjected to. And in June, just within the following month, June 1st, 1868, the Treaty of 1868 was signed by 29 Navajo headmen with the U.S. government, and we were our ancestors were finally released and were allowed to return to their native or their original homeland. And the government at the time decided to teach us a good lesson by giving us this, piece of arid land, and they. One of the agreements was that we were supposed to become farmers, no longer raid, and no longer bear arms, and so on and so forth. And so, and they gave us two heads of sheep and goats, and released the folks back to their homeland. And they probably were chuckling under their breath, saying, "You know what? These people will never be able to scratch a living out of this red dirt." Because, nothing is here, and the earth is so barren there. Well, come to find out, in the early 1900s, we have 25% of America's supply of uranium on Navajo Nation. And we have the richest deposits of coal on Navajo Nation. And we have oil, and on the Utah side of Navajo Nation. And then we also used to have a forestry, sawmill. And so the early 1900s, the Navajo folks were probably at their prime. They were so independently, economically, not dependent on the government.
Because
progressive, yes.
Because of the resources that they had, and that the government...
No. We had no idea.
That wasn't until later.
After 1923 did we find out we have all of this natural resources. But from the 1868 to 1920s, we became so self-sufficient. We have thousands of flocks, and these flocks weren't small, of sheep and goats, and people were very wealthy in a sense, that they have all these hundreds of sheep, cattle, horses, and then that was the livelihood of of our people, of our ancestors at the time. And the Navajo women were weaving rugs. They're famous Navajo, worldwide, well-known Navajo rugs, and the men, we have silversmithing really came from Navajo. They were taught to shoe the Spanish plateros, their horses back in the 1700s, and so the Navajo people were very good with their hands, and they refined the silver, and they started making silver jewelry, and they taught the rest of their Pueblo neighbors, and so we're very self-sufficient. We had, huge cornfields and vegetable fields, and we have always had a very healthy diet.